people. It's everyone's favorite, me, Lydia Halliday. And right now, I am driving to work on Memorial Day. It's a holiday, and I'm going to work. So, yeah. Today, I decided to tell a story time that is just totally weird and not right. It's about an insane breach of privacy. It's about therapy. It's juicy, so I'm about to spill the tea on this one. So anyway, when I was about 15, I decided with my mother that I was going to go to counseling or therapy. Basically, I like the idea of having somebody that can keep my secrets legally. And they weren't allowed to tell my mom, they weren't allowed to tell anybody unless it was, something to harm myself or others. But I had a lot of secrets as a teenager, just like every teenager does. And none of my friends were good at keeping them, and I thought they were pretty deep secrets. So, long story short, I decided to go to counseling. So my mom picked out a therapist that she thought would be good for me, and I'm just going to call this therapist, counselor, psychiatrist. I'm not really sure exactly what his professional title would be, but I'm going to call him Peter for the sake of his privacy and legality, and also he looked like Peter Griffin from Family Guy if Peter Griffin was a real person. So I visited Peter once or twice a week, and for about an hour we discussed, pretty much everything. And at that age, I did have a lot of traumatic experiences that I was working through. So I did think it helped, and I actually enjoyed talking to Peter. And he listened, he was understanding. I guess that's what he gets paid for, but it really helped. So at the time, Peter told me to keep track of things that happened to me during the week, and he gave me a journal that I could write in, and this specific journal, we would review it together whenever I came in to have my sessions. So I would write a lot. I love to write, and I've always been a journal person. I've always written in diaries ever since I could write and read. So I was going in on this journal. I wrote so many things down, and it held a lot of my private things. And so I went ham in this journal. That's what I'm trying to say. I really wrote so many personal things into the journal. And so I was going to Peter for a while. I want to say about a year. And at that time, I did not know. This is a complete other story time that I'm excited to tell, but it's going to be long because I got to prepare myself. But my parents decided that they would send me to a boarding school at the age of 16. And, excuse me, I'm congested. So they decided to send me up to a boarding school. I did not know it until they dropped me off, but they did talk to Peter about it, and he was in on it, and he knew that I was going. And like I said, I didn't know. They kind of surprised me, and I'm going to leave all those crazy details for that next story time about that. But the last time I went to see Peter, he had taken the journal from me to go through it and read through it, because I wrote like 20, 30, 40 pages a week, and we couldn't review it all in that session. So he took the journal, and we promised we were going to talk about it the next time I visited for my session. So, long story short, I got taken to the boarding school at 16. I ended up leaving the school when I was 18, so I was in there for, it was 15 months, and, things changed. My life changed. I was an adult when I left, and my whole entire life was different when I came back. And I didn't forget about going to therapy, but I didn't feel like I needed it, and I never went back to Peter when I came back these 15 months, 2 years later. So, let's just say, I'm speeding, guys, and there are 2 police just sitting there. I'm scared. Anyway. But, where am I going? I got so involved in the video, I don't even know where I'm going right now. Okay. So, I'll say a couple years went by. Maybe I was 21 at the time, and I was working in a Subway restaurant, and I had made some really good friends there, I'm so sorry, y'all. My nose is like running. I'm disgusting. I'm falling apart here. Oh, excuse me. So, yeah, I was working at the Subway. I had some really great friends there at the time. And one of my good friends, he was always telling me, there was another girl that worked with us, but I never had a shift with her. He's like, she is a great friend. I'm going to call her Sarah, which is not her real name, just for privacy reasons. I haven't talked to her in a few years, and I don't know if she'd want me telling this story with her real name. So, yeah, he would always talk about how awesome this girl was, Sarah, and I have to meet her. They were roommates, and she was just somebody that I needed to meet and be friends with. So eventually, I met up with Sarah, and as a group, we all hung out. We were great, great friends, and we started sharing, our private lives and discussing, our past and all kinds of things after we became good friends. This girl, Sarah, and I, we had a bond. I mean, I don't know, sometimes you meet a person or a friend, and you're just so similar, you have so much in common. It's like they're your long-lost sister or something. That was the relationship me and Sarah had. It was so real. She was such a good friend to me. And we also shared a similar birthday. I think her birthday was like 2 days after mine. So we both had the same zodiac signs, if you're into that. And we had so much in common. And we were literally like sister friends. Like, we were really deep in our friendship. So a few months went by. I was hanging out with them every day, spending the night. We're taking trips together. We're just doing the most. And she and I were sharing some stories. I didn't tell a lot of people that I had went to that boarding school. It was somewhat traumatizing for me and kind of embarrassing. And I'll explain all those details later, but I mean, if you knew, you would understand why I didn't really share that with a lot of people. And a lot of people thought I was in jail or rehab, and that really wasn't the case. That was not the reason why I was there. So I didn't share with a lot of people, but Sarah and I had one thing in common. She had also went to a similar program that I had went to. They're not affiliated or the same, but they were both Christian-run, girls' home, boarding school type things, and very cult-like, and they were so similar, and we both shared a similar traumatic experience in those programs. So that was a bond we shared. So once we opened up about that and started talking about that, she would always say, like, I feel like I know you from somewhere. Like, I know we have a connection. Maybe we knew each other in a past life or something, but she felt like she knew me deeper than our friendship had gone. And we never really could figure out why for a long time. And, it was just one of those things. It was just like, okay, we're meant to be friends. It's just, we have a deep connection. One day, this is where it gets twisted and strange. Sarah comes up to me and she's like, I know this is going to be really weird, and I hope you don't get upset, but I think I have one of your diaries from like 2006 or something. She's like, did you ever keep a journal? And at the time period, I could not think. I was like, no, I don't think so. What? This is so weird. And like, how would you have got my diary? I didn't know her from before we were worked together, or we didn't have any other mutual friends other than our coworkers. So I was just really shocked as to how she would have gotten a journal of mine. I was thinking, I haven't wrote in a journal since I was a little kid or whatever. So it was weird. So one day she brings a journal to me, and lo and behold, it was my journal. Really weird, right? So this was for like 2006. I'll just say it's like 2012, 2013 at the time. It had been forever ago that I had that journal. And this was the journal that I had kept with my counselor, therapist, Peter. Now you're wondering, like, how the heck did this girl get this journal that is like really crazy. It's a total breach of privacy in the therapy community. I mean, that's a conflict of interest. It's crazy. How did this girl get my journal? And we were great friends, so I didn't really mind that she had known my personal business because I've already told her most of it. But if it had been anybody else, I probably would have been really pissed off. There was so many personal things I had wrote in that journal, and so many just so many things. I kept that journal for over a year, so I filled up the journal with my pain and hurt and just the most ridiculous scenarios. And it was just baffling how she had gotten this journal of mine. So we had done some investigating and digging to figure out what in the world, like, how did this even happen? So what it boils down to is Peter, my therapist, a period of time went by after I had left to go to the boarding school, and hadn't kept any contact with him at all, hadn't reunited with him after I came back, nothing. So Peter had changed careers and became a live-in or something. He became a therapist for the girls' boarding school that Sarah had gone into. We had gone into the programs at separate times, and they were in 2 different states and everything. But as part of the program, you do see a therapist and a counselor, and you try to work through your home life and through, certain issues you have at that age. And that's part of the boarding school program, to have a therapist. So he was a therapist for that girl's boarding school that Sarah had gone into. And I guess we kind of figured out it possibly could have been he was filing paperwork and filing journals. He had also, as part of his program, had the other girls in that school keep journals. And as well as what he did to me, keep journals, he would review the journals with them as well. And all we could think of is that somehow, some way, 2 different businesses, whatever, he had kept my journal on file and possibly put it in to, like, by date of birth or something, because we shared similar date of birth. Maybe that was what happened. I don't know. But before she left the program, he had given her journal back to take it home with her and keep. And instead of giving her journal, he gave her mine, which is, like I said, totally ridiculous. These programs we went to were totally different, not the same people, not the same directors, not the same company. And I went to him as a therapist in a different counseling business. So it is really baffling how that happened. And I also wonder what happened to her journal. Did he give it to some other girl as well? It's really crazy, but my privacy was definitely invaded, and I felt like this was definitely not something that a counselor should do. He should have been more careful or cautious of whose journal he was giving back to whom. And I don't think it was malicious. I don't think he did it on purpose. I don't know. He couldn't have predicted the future that me and her would have been friends years later, but it was a very strange coincidence that she got this journal of mine. And so this is where it gets another pretty funky. To top it all off, her mother, like I said, I'm not going to tell any of their names or their personal business like that, but her mother, after he had left the job, I don't know, now I start to wonder if he got fired from the job at the girls' home. I don't know, but he eventually left that job and went back to being a therapist. I think he started working for himself. Maybe he started his own counseling center, but he did not work for that girls' home anymore. He became a counselor outside of that and began to counsel therapy Sarah's mother, which I also think is somewhat of a conflict of an interest. You're a counselor for somebody's child, and then you later on in life become a counselor, therapist, psychologist for that person's parent. I mean, I know you're not supposed to tell anything to your patients about other patients, but to me personally, I think that is a little bit strange. But he became her counselor, Sarah's mother's counselor, and then they begin to date. So freaking weird. I don't know the law of this stuff, but I just think this is so trippy and not right and not normal. But he began to date Sarah's mother, and he would come over to the house and have dinner with them, and Sarah always used to tell me, like, he's a nice guy. He wasn't a creep or anything, but how weird it was to have gone to therapy with this man, tell him all her secrets and all her private life. I'm sure she talked about her parents and, said things about her parents to him and her mother and just different things. And homeboy went and dated her mother, and then she was, I wouldn't say forced, but she had to participate in hanging out with him and going on family dates and stuff like that. and inviting him into their life and their home. So this whole story was so out of whack and so strange, and I never confronted him. I didn't really have the desire to go out of my way to track him down or anything and be like, hey, you can't wear my journal, this is illegal, I'm gonna sue you or something. I didn't, that wasn't really my way to go about things, but I definitely, to this day, have never forgot that story and how weird it was, like that my journal ended up in my future friend's hands when she was in a boarding school. So weird, so strange, but that's this life. It's very strange. Some things happen, coincident or not, meant to be or not. That's my story of my breach of privacy by my therapist. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this story. Comment below and let me know what you think really happened. How do you think she got that journal? Like I said, there was no connection between me, her family, the schools who went to the programs. I mean, we were in 2 different states. So comment below and let me know what your thoughts are. How in the heck that happened and how weird it is. And what do you think about him dating her mom? Is that normal? Any doctors or therapists, is that something that you would do, or you would feel morally wrong for doing something like that? I'm just curious what you guys think. So like I said, I hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks for riding through the middle of nowhere with me while I go to work on a holiday. And I'll see you next time. Like I said, boarding school story time coming up. I think that's going to be a few different stories. There were so many crazy events that happened over that period of 15 months I was there. So I really can't wait to share it with you guys and expose that boarding school for what it really is. All right, guys, hope you have a happy Memorial Day and enjoy your life while I'm at work, and I'll see you next time.